Bolt fam, I have another special guest joining the Electric Edge podcast today. Chargers legend Shawne Merriman was nice enough to spend some time talking about the draft this year, his Chargers dominance back in the late 2000s, and this upcoming season with the Chargers. So, Shawne, I really appreciate you coming on to Electric Edge podcast. Super excited to talk to you about all things Chargers football.
You got it. Thanks for having me. Good to see you again, too.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a little bit of a full circle moment. So if my listeners haven't heard, I mentioned that I met Shawne back in Pittsburgh. The Chargers had thrown a pre-draft party and Shawne was there and he was amazing. He came up to every fan, shook every fan's hand, took pictures, signed autographs. So a little bit of a full circle moment here, getting to talk to you one-on-one instead of in a group setting this time. But I want to hear your experience in Pittsburgh. You got to announce the Chargers second round pick. I thought Pittsburgh was a great city. The draft was awesome. I want to hear your experience in announcing that pick on stage.
It was cool because it's one of the fan bases I like. so, so going around seeing Pittsburgh Steelers fans, like it was cool. I think for me being there and kind of representing, like I played with some great players, right?
Hmm.
And I don't overlook the fact that they can go with anybody, no matter who I am, but they can go with anybody. I mean, I played with a
Yeah.
lot of great players. So I look at things as an opportunity, and then whenever things are cool, as opportunity. In fact, when I came by, met you guys, they just told me, hey, we got some Chargers fans here, and this. I'm in. Hit me with the address, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so for me to just get back up there in front of Chargers fans, but also just football fans in general who probably haven't seen me in person in God knows how long. And I think when you get further away from the game and people don't see you, I'm not going to say they forget because I'm pretty, I'm do a bunch of TV and podcasts and media and stuff like that. But it's cool to still keep that connection for with the fan base and I'm not saying Chargers fans base, but the football fan base in general.
Yeah. What did you think about the Chargers second round pick that you announced in Jake Slaughter?
I think that they got a winner in Jake. And it was obviously something for them that they had to address, right?
Yeah.
Because the Chargers' biggest problem last year was health, right?
Hmm. Yep.
And when you're making a run deep in the playoffs, you need depth. And so no matter who starts or who goes, somebody go down, there can't be a big drop off in that second string. It just can't, right?
Yeah.
Because when you do that, you're handicapping yourself. Where I don't care how great your quarterback is or who's catching the ball or whatnot, but if you can't keep him clean, then it doesn't matter. So when they announced that pick, first of all, I was happy that it wasn't some Nigerian name or some name that I couldn't pronounce.
Yeah.
One of my Samoan brothers. Something that was like I couldn't pronounce. Right, so I'm in the back. I'm looking in the back, and they got a big board, and the pick literally doesn't come in about 30 seconds to you come out. You
Oh,
don't
wow.
know. So you're looking at this board, and then when it goes in, they pop it in, and they hand you the envelope, but you don't know going out at all. And so I was just hoping that I like just keep the name semi-simple. Where I don't have to go out here and get tongue twisted in front of 100,000 plus people. But ultimately, I just think they drafted somebody that they can build around for the next 5 years, because obviously if Justin Herbert's going to be there and he has to remain healthy, they need to keep him upright. Point blank.
Yeah.
So I think they did a good job with that.
Yeah. And I just want to go back on your point about depth. I think the Chargers drafted the most offensive linemen since, I think, 1991. Do you think they really addressed this depth, not only in the draft this offseason?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm gonna tell you another thing. Those second string guys may not remain second string guys. If you're
Yeah.
not getting it done as the first string guy, and you got somebody that's breathing right behind you that was a second round pick, they don't draft offensive linemen that in the top 3 rounds for no reason. They expect them to play. So the best teams that I've ever played on or even played against, there's a competition level day in and day out. Like, you can't come in there slacking and think that your job is safe every single day. You got to work.
Mhm.
And so when you have somebody like Jake that comes in, Jake can be a starter. He can come in
Yeah.
and play. And so when you do that, you create a level of competition where guys, if you get beat too much on the front line, you're going to get benched. And I think that outside of depth, you also create a layer of competition that's overall just going to make the team better.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, just looking back to last year, they were pulling players off the couch to start on the offensive line. But I think they did a very good job this offseason with one through the draft and two through free agency to get players in the room to build that depth, but also have, as you mentioned, like a room for these guys to compete and the best guy wins. Just sticking on to the draft too, I want to hear a little about your personal draft experience when you got drafted back in '05. What did it feel like getting your name called? And did you have any idea like where you're going to get drafted in 2005?
I did, but I didn't, and I'll tell you why. Because my draft grade came back anywhere from the 3rd to the 15th pick.
Okay.
3 being Cleveland, where I didn't want to go, not because of the city. The city of Cleveland, fine, but they were god awful
Mhm.
back then, and I didn't want to go to a team that I can get lost in the shuffle because they're not winning. No big
Yeah.
national TV games, and so look at Miles Garrett. Had
Yeah.
put up numbers right for damn near a decade, however long it's been, and what has he got to show for it? Right? Other than, some defense
Yeah.
MVPs and stuff like that. But those accolades are cool, but ultimately you want to win. And so I didn't want to go there. You start going down the line, the list, and I saw number 9, the then Redskins, now Commanders, was in my backyard. So I thought I could have ended
Yep.
up there. 10 was Detroit. I went out and met with Steve Mariucci before the draft. And that was somewhere I didn't want to go either because they wasn't winning. And so then I knew it was going to be between 2 teams. It was going to be between the Dallas Cowboys or the Chargers, right? I knew it was going to be
Mhm.
one of the two because they both told me that if I was around, by the way, they didn't think I was going to make it past the 5th or 6th pick of the draft. They thought I'll go somewhere in the top 5, top
Mhm.
7. So, but they told me, they said, look, if you get past this, this first batch of around 5 to 7 picks that we think you might go, we're going to draft you. So I knew that once I got past pick 7, it was going to be the Cowboys or the Chargers.
Yeah, I mean, I just remember, 2006 was, like, the first year that I watched the Chargers, and I just felt like every single play that you were on the field, you were getting to the quarterback, you were in every single play on the field, it was amazing to watch. But back to the draft too, do you have any fun stories from draft night in '05?
Yeah. Well, so when I got drafted, I don't know if you remember back then, the draft used to be like 10 hours.
Yeah, it was
I mean,
long, it was
it
long.
was all day. Like one pick was a half hour sometimes. And so, by the time you get into the pick, you easily could be 5 hours into the draft and you could still be in the top 10. So they moved it along a lot faster, which is why when I got invited to the draft, I didn't want to go. So
Don't
I
blame
was
you.
like, the last thing that I wanted to do was to be sitting there in the back room in the green room with a camera in my face, and somehow I slipped past the Cowboys and Chargers, and I'm at 20-something pick, and now I'm in later in the first rounds. You're talking about 10 hours worth of waiting. So I said, no thanks. So I rented a big house back in Maryland with my family and friends, my high school coaches, my boys and girls club coaches. Everybody was there. And so I felt more comfortable. We had
Mhm.
cameras there. Comcast had did something really cool. They came, but for me, I just wanted to be comfortable. I didn't want to go there and be sweating bullets in front of the whole world and the camera up my face. I mean, remember what happened with Aaron Rodgers, right? When he got
Yeah.
drafted, I mean, he was a 20-some pick and he was like 10 hours in. It was crazy. And so for me, I wanted to stay home. I was like, there's no way in hell that I'm gonna go there not knowing that if I can go to the 3rd pick or the 23rd pick and be sitting there with a camera in my face. So yeah, I stayed home.
Yeah, I don't blame you there. At least the NFL has got it right where I think it's what 7, 8 minutes now in the first round.
Right.
It's a lot smoother. But coming into the league at such a high draft pick, did you feel any pressure right away coming into the Chargers to perform, or was more of a like a developmental where, hey, let's get your feet wet and then it's go time?
Everything moved fast for me because I held out before I came. Back then, you had, you can hold out. Now everything's just slotted. You go in the
Mhm.
top 5 picks. You're going to get paid, and you sign a contract early, so there's no more holding out and negotiating or whatnot. And I held out because of the injury clause. And so basically, if I was to go to mini camp or OTAs and get hurt, like I wouldn't have got paid on
Yeah.
paper. And so for that reason, I held out. And every day I'm sitting there yelling at every other day I'm calling my agent. Did they call? Are we get it done yet? I'm cursing them out. We getting in arguments. I'm like, dude, I'm trying to get out there. And so when I got there, probably 2 weeks before the first game, I didn't understand the playbook. I mean, they put something in front of me and it looked like I was reading a different language. I was like, what in the hell is this? And we got to the point where they knew I was athletic enough and I could get on the field and play, but I had to know what I was doing. So Wade Phillips, the defensive coordinator, told me straight up, he said, Shawne, We're gonna line you up, and when after that, when the ball snap, see ball, go to wherever the football is. And I was like, what? So that was my playbook for like the first 4 weeks of the season. And then by the fifth game, I was pretty much comfortable. The speed of the game never bothered me. It was easier for me in the NFL to go and make plays than it was in college. I have way more responsibilities in college,
Hmm.
way more. When it got to the NFL, it was like, dude, go make plays, go get the quarterback,
Yeah.
go be a game changer. Because in the NFL, you get paid to change games, and so I was like, I can do that without 10 other responsibilities. But um, it was like incredible walking into the locker room because of all the guys who were there. Like I watched LT and I watched
Hmm.
Antonio Gates and Phillip, who I absolutely hated in college, and played against
Yeah.
him. Played against Phil, and I knew Phil from back in the day, and Jamal Williams, who's from my area, where we grew up in Washington D.C.
Hmm.
And so I watched these guys for years. So walking to the locker room as a 20, 21-year-old kid, I think I just turned 21, I believe. So coming as a 21-year-old kid, seeing Antonio Gates and Phil and Lorenzo Neal and all the boys, like I was like a deer in the headlights. It was like, damn,
Yeah.
this is crazy. I'm in the NFL. And then once all that wore off, then I was pretty much good to go.
Yeah, that's amazing. You took one of my questions away already. I was going to ask you, what was it like sharing the locker room with Philip Rivers, LT, Lorenzo Neal, Antonio
It,
Gates, those guys?
so let me tell you, because I didn't like Phil in college, we actually got after each other quite a bit. And then when I got drafted, I reached out because I knew a couple of his teammates that he played with in college at NC State.
Hmm.
And I asked him, I said, hey man, how was this dude? How was he? They said, Shawne, you're gonna love him. Like he's the ultimate
Yeah.
teammate, ultimate competitor of this. I said, man, are you sure? Because on the field, he seemed like he talk a lot of smack. He's just going back and forth. He's always jarring at somebody. Like, are you sure? They said, dude, you're gonna love this guy. Like, trust me. And then probably 2 or 3 weeks in of just being around him, I saw everything that they were saying. Just
Yeah.
him how Phil would go and sit at the table full of D linemen. Right, he'll come over to
Hmm.
linebackers. It was like he was with everybody, and so that's what kind of made him such a great teammate.
Yeah, that's awesome. I hopefully in a couple years now he gets his rightful place in the Hall of Fame. Hopefully doesn't retire, then come back again. But that's awesome to hear. I do want to switch gears back a little bit to this year's draft. The Chargers taking Akeem Mesidor in the first round. Being an edge rusher, coming into the league a little bit older, at 25. What separates talented college defensive ends from NFL playmakers?
Well, I'll say this: as a pass rusher, it's different than any other position on the field,
Hmm.
right? As a quarterback, you got to learn the playbook. You know, changes, audibles. You got to have timing with the wide receivers. The offensive line has to know the protections. You got this constant communication where you got to be on the same page. As a pass rusher, if you have the athletic ability, they can get you on the field and get you playing and making plays right away. Like you can cause havoc right away. It's the only position on the field where you don't have to think as much coming in initially, starting out. You can
Hmm.
go make plays right away. So they could put him in a game, starting the first game of the season, no matter where he's at. He can still be very effective, even if he doesn't understand the full scope yet and how to be a pro. Watching film, there's all those little things that come. But as a pass rusher, you get on the field right now and you can produce and make plays. And even if he gets on the field on third down situations or
Hmm.
whatever that may be, from the start, it doesn't matter because he can be a game changer right away. And I think that's exactly what he's going to be. Just watching him and how many plays he were involved with him and Ruben Bain. I mean,
Yeah.
those guys were like devils coming. They're like demons coming off the edge. And every single play, they're around the football. So I don't expect nothing to change with that. And, you know, there's always a lot of talk during the draft, especially right before the draft happens. Ruben Bain's arms too short. Hakeem he's too old, he's too old. Like
Hmm.
watch the film. Like just watch the film. Can he play football or not? And if the answer is yes, that the question is answered. And so for me, I think he's going to get on the field, produce right away. I think he's going to be defensive rookie of the year. I think he's going to put up if not double digits, very close to it.
Okay.
Um, and there's a lot of factors, not just his talent, that leads me to believe that they're going to put up points. And anytime I talk about my career and what I've done, I always got to bring up the fact where I talk about Phil and Gates and LT and all the guys, Lorenzo, because the ability for those guys to put up points, it allowed me to go get the quarterback. They got to throw the ball.
Yeah.
And so that's why I think he's going to have those numbers and be effective this year, because we know that offense with Mike McDaniels and everything they're doing on the offense side of the ball, they're going to put up points.
Yeah, I mean, I think from my estimation, I said like maybe 7, 8 sacks this year for Akeem, but I agree with you. Putting up a ton of points between him, Khalil, Tooley on the edge, like they have a lot of guys that can get to the quarterback this year, which is super exciting to see.
Yeah, look, if I was a defensive coordinator, it'd be like a fat kid in the candy store. You know what I mean? Like you got a three-headed monster. We used to have a three-headed monster back when I played, at least my early on in my career, where you can put all three guys on the field and cause havoc. And guess what? You can have them too. Then you got a fresh one coming off the edge. You bring in a young Hakeem right off, coming off of the bench, and
Mhm.
he's fresh with an offensive tackle that just got beat up by Khalil Mack and Thule, and he's coming in with fresh legs. All hell's going to break loose. And there's a couple ways that you can slice the pie, and I think that that's one of them. You can have them all three on the field, have them moving around, blitzing from all over the place, create havoc, or you can have the other two pass rushers tiring those tackles out, and you got fresh legs coming in, which is another problem.
Yeah, I mean, I know there's the defensive coordinator change with Chris O'Leary this year, but I still think they have all those core guys still in place that it could be a top 10 defense once again in the NFL with the guys they have.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, and then obviously with Derwin getting his new contract and being
Yeah.
back there, but I mean, they're stacked. They're stacked all the way on their ball. And you're right. I think there isn't a way they're not top 10 defense this year. I just don't see it.
Yeah, no, I agree. And just one last point on the draft. What was your overall thoughts on this draft for Joe Ortiz? I personally thought it was his best draft so far as the Chargers GM, but I want to hear your
No,
thoughts on it.
no doubt about it. But if you look at the cadence of the draft, we just talked about the most
Yeah.
offensive lineman that was drafted. That's his team identity. And I get a chance to talk to Joe sometime, Joe
Mhm.
Ortiz before the game, and I always say, man, it feels like you're talking to a player.
Okay.
Like he has that about him where he's a football guy. Like there's a difference than putting some numbers together and being GM to balance the books and do a lot of math equations and probability and things like that. And I'm not saying that you should be against that, but when you got a football GM, they're gonna make football decisions. And I think that's the biggest thing that I like about Joe. They're establishing an identity and then letting the rest of the league know who they are. Who else drafts that many offensive linemen? What do you guys plan on doing? We're going to run the damn football, right? And,
Yep.
and so you bring in Mike McDaniels. Guess what? Now we got an explosive offense. We're telling you without saying anything, we're telling you who we are. Just look at how they've been drafting and what they've been doing.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm excited to see this run game explode this year. I think with the change of the offensive line, they have 4 competent running backs in that room with Hampton, Vidal, Keaton Mitchell, and even Jared Patterson. I think they can do a lot of damage on the ground and take pressure off of Justin Herbert having to do everything this year.
Absolutely.
Cool. So I want to talk about your career with the Chargers. The dominant run you had from 2005 through 2010, where the Chargers make the playoffs every single year. When you look back on those years and those teams, what is one of the first things that comes to mind to you?
We ain't get a ring. I mean, you know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be negative about it, but you talk about how dominant we were. And
Yeah.
and I said this at a podcast not too long ago. And you could look at NFL films and all this stuff, and we talk about all the teams of the decades and things like that. We were the most dominant team in my opinion of that
Mhm.
decade, or at least from that 2005 to 2010 period. I
Yep.
believe that. What we were doing, we wasn't just winning, we were kicking everybody's ass. It wasn't like we were squeezing by and field goal here. We were dominating.
Yeah.
We played a brand of football that we were so physical that I've had guys that were friends of mine on opposing teams. They will come back and tell me like, dude, we were in the team room and we were just seeing we were just saying you guys like knock heads around and jump over piles and throwing people down. I mean, we played a football that was going to hit you in the mouth for 60 minutes, and that resonated. Every time you turn on the field, you knew who you was coming to play. And then that's just on the defense side of the ball. On the offense side of the ball, I mean, you know, how they were running the ball down the field, how efficient they were, and how they imposed their will on people. And then, by the way, if you even think about stopping that, guess where the ball is going to? It's going to 85, right? And so,
Yep.
what are you going to do when somebody's that dominant? And we felt so confident week in and week out. And I'll tell you why is because it was a competition every day in practice. There was a competition.
Yeah.
There was no days off because I know that if I'm going against Antonio Gates, he's not going to slack. And I don't want him to beat me. So now you find even the days we want to go out and chill and not go as hard, just the ego and the confidence that we had and wanting to be great and want to be the best what we did wouldn't allow us to half-ass anything, right? So you got some days we're hurt, tired, beat up, we might be in training camp or whatever, and we look at each other like, hey, we can take a little bit off if we wanted to. Nobody's going to say nothing to me or him, or definitely not him. But it's just our pride in the way we worked wouldn't allow us to do that. And so when you have that week in and week out, seeing Marcus McNeil that people don't talk about as much now, but
Yeah.
one of the best tackles, in my opinion, to play football. Me and Lorenzo Neal had to create a brother-in-law where we agreed we wasn't going to take each other heads off so we can make it to the game.
Yeah.
So those kind of conversations were going on because we were all just wanting to win and be great out there. So by the time we got to the game, I'm looking at like, okay, who else am I going to see at the tight end position that's better than Antonio Gates? No one.
Yeah.
Marcus McNeil? No one. Lorenzo Neal? No one. So you go
Yeah.
across the board, Nick Hardwick and Mike Goff, and who are we going to see that's better than these guys? We see each other every day. And so it just gave us the confidence. By the time we got to the game, it was like, come on.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just remember that 2006 season going 14-2, and you guys just ran through the entire league. But on that note, for that season for you, you had 17 sacks that year. You're an All Pro. Was anything different heading into that season for you compared to your rookie season in '05?
Yeah, I got a lot better on my hands. That's my first year off season. I picked up MMA.
Okay.
And, I was working with Randy Couture, and I started training with Chuck Liddell, Tito Ortiz. And I got really good with my hand placement, being very active and violent with my hands, timing of my hands. I started to watch film a little bit more on what some of these teams are gonna do against me because, I remember talking to Ray Lewis early on. When you become a dominant player, you're not playing against the person in front of you anymore. You're playing against the
Yeah.
offensive coordinator. So that whole offseason, I went back and I was watching film and I was seeing what teams started to do to me towards the end of the year because I started kind of come onto the scene, keeping tight ends in on the line of scrimmage that hit me before they got out into their routes. Fan protection, slide protection, chip off the edge, bring a tight end in motion so he can. It was hell. It was like a week in, a week out. I just was waiting for somebody to do something to stop me from getting to the football. So MMA, for sure, helped my hands, cardio. I just came in a different player. And also learning the game of football. I really started diving into film and understanding what these offensive coordinators were going to do against me.
And then, on that 2007 season, I mean, the Chargers broke through, made the AFC Championship. How close it feel to that team going to the Super Bowl? And did that team feel similar to the '06 team that went 14-2?
Yeah, no, for sure it did. And I think that it was a different type of team, right?
Okay.
Because we were throwing the
Yeah.
ball a little bit more. I think that our mentality was a little bit different. We always won, but it was the way we were winning. I think that we're beating people differently than we did in '06. And then walking into that game in '07, the AFC Championship game, everybody was hurt. My
Yeah.
knee was jacked. LT knee was jacked. Antonio Gates had a foot. I think Lorenzo had a neck or a back or something. I mean, we crawled into that game, and still we felt confident that we had a chance of winning. Um, but we just kept running up into the Patriots. So anytime anybody, especially those damn Raiders fans, they like coming online talking trash to me.
Yeah.
I said, dude, you got to go through Ben Roethlisberger first. You get to Peyton Manning, and then you get to Tom Brady. So that was our route to get into a championship. So it was tough. It was different. But either way, we just felt extremely confident because if you remember, I think we started out 1-2 or 1-3 that year or something like that. We started out very slow.
Hmm.
And then Phil had one day we had a team meeting and Phil like kicked all the coaches out, or we all kicked, and then we got after each other. Phil got up and talked the most, and our season completely turned around. And so that was a big start of it.
Yeah. I mean, it was so close. I think Philip Rivers also had his torn ACL in that game, if I remember
Yep, he
correctly,
did.
too.
Yeah, yeah.
Just so close. Anything from those teams that you see in the current Chargers team heading into 2026?
Big time.
Yeah,
Across the board.
yeah,
Across the board.
that's
You know,
exciting.
you got Thule and Khalil Mack. It was me and Sean Phillips. You know, you got Stephen Cooper, who's the smartest player I ever played with, that just knows everything and always around the football. You got the same there built there. You got, you know, we didn't have a Derwin. That's probably the only difference. We didn't have, you know, but again, we had Weddle. Weddle
Yeah,
was no slouch. Weddle's a damn good player. And so, yeah, if you look at what they're building, I always say this, that it's the recipe to win, because our bread and butter, no matter what, was running the football. We had LT back there. We had
yeah,
Lorenzo O'Neal. But what happens is when you start running the ball well, guess what's open? That play action, deep balls down the field, big plays, things like that. And so what did the Chargers go out and do just this offseason? They went out and got another tight end,
yep,
right? And so it's the same build all the way over again. I'm not saying that they're going to be as good as us or whatever, but they definitely have the opportunity to do so for sure.
so speaking of that, what do you think this team's floor and ceiling is heading into this year?
I think I don't see them winning less than 11 games. I
Okay,
mean, I think that's the floor to win 11 games. But um, at this point, it doesn't matter. But Justin Herbert capabilities, we haven't seen nothing like him.
yeah,
On the physical standpoint, his physical attributes, what he's capable of doing, his toughness, we haven't seen nothing like him in a long time. And so he's always going to have this dark cloud over him until he gets deep in the playoffs and past the first round. So I think that for them to consider a success, obviously everybody wants a championship. Everybody wants a ring. Everybody who doesn't want a ring are losers. That's just what it comes down to.
yeah,
It is what it is. But I can't see them not being in the AFC Championship game this year. I can't see it. If they stay healthy, that's always the biggest knock on the Chargers. And when it's time, even that we just talked about my time
yep,
there. What happened
yeah,
in '07? We were all
yeah,
banged up. We were all beat up. We got there. We were all banged up. So if those guys stay healthy, I think health wise they could have done it last year. You know,
yeah,
if you got your two tackles, that means Justin Herbert's getting hit 5 less times a game at least.
yep,
What happens? I think they go out and win again. Justin Herbert's not banged up. He's not throwing from his back. And so just health alone, not even on paper, just how this team is constructed, AFC Championship should be the bare minimum that should happen with those guys this year.
um, from your lips to God's ears, I hope so. Speaking on, I know we just talked about the health piece. Is there anything else that needs to happen this year for the Chargers to get them in the Super Bowl contender space?
Yeah, beat the teams you're supposed to beat, right?
Yeah,
You're supposed to beat the Raiders twice. You're
that's right.
supposed to beat Denver, handle your division. Kansas City's probably going to be better this year. If you don't beat them twice, in worst case, you split a game with them. And so you got half your season done right there with those wins. Then you got to go out and dominate the teams that you're supposed to beat, right?
Yep.
Like make an example out of them. And that's the mentality. Remember I talk about like how they are on paper. They're constructed to win a championship on paper.
Hmm.
But they have to have a mentality of domination when it's supposed to be. You're going to have your tough games. Some games you're going to have to knock a field goal down to go up and win. You're going to have to get a first down to ice out the clock, or you're going to have to do these things. But they should absolutely dominate and have a mindset of dominating the teams they're supposed to. That's it, the mentality that they have to establish in that locker room. And I'm not in there, so I don't know the conversations of how guys are, but I can put money on it that, with guys like Derwin James, Khalil Mack, some of those vets in there that careers are in the middle or towards the end, they're not letting that slip, not with this talented team that they have.
Yeah, and based on like some of the things we've heard out of the press conferences the past couple weeks, it just seems like that mentality in the locker room. They've all been talking about it's time to basically put up or shut up. It's time to win. There's too much talent in this locker room for them not to win at this point.
And they're absolutely right. I mean, you know, one of my biggest regrets, as I said before, we didn't win a championship. But two, you go back and look at the games that we should have won,
Hmm.
right? Just over that 5-year period. Those are the games that haunt me a little bit more because, like, dude, why, they're not better than us. We should have, we should have slammed this team. We didn't. And so it definitely feels that way when I'm around the building and I'm seeing the guys, I'm talking to the coaches. That is the atmosphere that I think that's happening within that building. I think that everybody's extremely confident. Everybody's holding each other accountable. Um, And I truly believe that they feel like it is a put up or shut up time.
Yeah. Do you think, based on the moves in the offseason, bringing in Mike McDaniel, the weapons they put on this offense, that Justin Herbert has a real chance to winning MVP this year?
Yeah, absolutely. No doubt. Because I think that, I think in certain scenarios or certain cases, Herbert was held back. What
Yeah.
his true talents and what he could do. And I don't think they had enough explosive plays in that offensive playbook. Um, because when you got a guy like Justin Herbert and you're running the ball, and by the way, I'm just talking about when they were healthy. They when
Yeah.
they wasn't healthy, you gotta kind of ad lib a little bit out there and figure it out. But when they were healthy and you got all your horses, you got to see some explosive plays. Those wide receivers got to beat people one on one down the field. You
Yeah.
got to be able to dominate in the run. And when they come up in the box, you got to be able to launch a ball 40, 50 yards down the field and make a big play. Big plays have to happen. So I just think that he was hindered. And I don't know if that was because of health, because of personnel. They didn't have what they needed to go out and do that. Or
Yeah.
was that the playbook and maybe a combination of both?
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's all gears go with Mike McDaniel. I think this offense is going to be explosive. I think it'd be a top 10 offense in the league this year if, to your point, everyone stays healthy.
Yeah. And I think that Quentin Johnson would be top five in receiving yards this year. And,
That's
he
awesome.
was somebody who I was an advocate for from day one. And all the QJ haters out there, I'm here to stuff it right in your face. When I first met him, the first year when I got a chance to be around him, this dude is big. He's fast. He's athletic. He doesn't move like a bigger wide receiver. And you get around him, and he has this quiet, confidence about him a little bit. Didn't talk a whole lot, but I know swag when I see it, and I know some of these guys got it, regardless of if they say it or not. And he had it, and I saw it. And so, he had a couple drop balls early on when he struggled in his career, and I said, look, I mean, at some point in time, he's going to catch those. The
Yeah.
fact he's getting open, and he's beating people. I said those balls are going to be caught at some point, and when they do, it's going to turn into 1,000-yard seasons, and that's where he's at with it. And I think that now having the Amari on these guys back healthy again, having a run in the game, having your offensive line healthy, they're going to run the ball. Guess what? What's open? Deep balls, and that's what he's going to be great at doing because the guy can go right by you.
Yeah. I mean, I know there's a lot of QJ haters out there, but say what you want about the guy. Every single year he's been in the league, he's gotten better and better and better. And he earned his 5th year option they picked up on him.
100%, and it's just so weird. It's so weird now because it's almost like people just wish on your downfall, right? And he can have a 10 catch game with 100+ yards. He dropped the ball and now he sucks. And I'm like, come on, like should he have caught it? Yeah, probably. But this guy's still playing extremely well. And as you just said, we're seeing progress every year. We're not seeing
Yep.
regression. We're seeing him make progress. And so if he was going the other way, then I would jump off the bandwagon just like everybody else. But every time he stepped on the field, he's gotten better. And so
Yep.
now in this going into his 5th year, what's going to happen now? He's going to get better than he was last year, and he had a damn good year last year.
Yep. Yeah, I think that he's poised for a 1,000-yard receiving season. I think double-digit touchdowns is definitely in the conversation for him this year. And I'm fingers crossed. I'm excited to see it.
Absolutely.
So, last question on this Chargers team. What is your prediction? What's wins and losses? Do you think they get past the AFC Championship game this year and make it to the Super Bowl?
Yeah, I think they go 12-5.
Okay.
Right? Is that right? Yeah, 12-5.
Yeah.
I think that's where it
Okay.
end up. Um, and I think they'll win a division. And if they're healthy, they win a Super Bowl. I think it's almost a lock. It just really comes down to health. And mind you, you can't say that about the other 31 teams. I couldn't, and
Yeah.
that's not me being like a homebody, a homer, right? Because I played for the
Yeah.
Chargers. I'm just saying it because I'm looking at that team but as a former defensive player, and I'm looking at that team. Okay, which week do you want? You want Rashawn Slater? Or you want a Joel? What? Those are my two options.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
back when I was playing, I couldn't wait to play somebody. I don't care who they had at the left tackle or the right tackle. If that other tackle was weak and I go to the other side, I'm like, I'm cooking, right? I'm happy as
Yeah.
hell because I know that I'm at least go out here and drag him. what that's your two options. I mean, you start looking at the interior and the new center they brought in and the new draftees. You got Amarion healthy. They obviously got a big body of fullbacks. They can move around and run the football if they need to.
Yeah.
And you got two capable wide receivers and you got a capable tight end. So what's stopping them? That the only thing I can see stopping those guys is health. That's
Yeah.
the only thing that I can see them to prevent them from winning championships championship this year is health.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with you, and, my prediction as well is 12-5 this year. I think that's definitely possible, and them winning, the AFC West for the first time, I think, since '09, '10 at this point. It can't believe it's been 16 years, of a drought at this point for an AFC West title,
Yeah, but
but
you got Patrick Mahomes in that division,
yeah,
so
yeah,
it's a little bit of a
yeah,
problem for
a
everybody.
little tough, a little tough. Alright, last part of this, I do wanna have a few fun questions with you. Both of us are residents of Vegas, so wanted to ask you, what's the most underrated thing about living in Las Vegas?
It's being off the strip.
Yeah.
It's like, you know, people that's not from here, you come here 3 days, you have your fun, you leave, you only go, pool, gamble club, whatever you're gonna go, but you're on the strip. There's so many cool things to do off the strip, whether it's lounges, whether it's parks, whether it's I play golf here and there, just the restaurants off the strip. Some of the restaurants off the strip are better than ones on it.
Yep.
Some of the ones that's less commercialized, right? And I love this place. And I used to come here, back in my younger days for the 3 days and out. So I didn't know too much about the strip 10, 15 years ago. But
Yeah.
the last 7 or so that I've been here, it's home. And I travel every 5 to 7 days. I'm on a plane. The airport's easy. You can get in and out, fly anywhere I want. Um, and it's just overall, man, this is my home, and I'll be here for a long time.
Yeah. No, I agree with that. Everyone thinks the Strip when they come to Vegas, but there's so much more outside of it uh, than going on to the Strip. Now, you mentioned restaurants, so what's your favorite off-Strip restaurant?
Mm, Italian, I'll go Puro's.
Okay.
That's my favorite Italian joint. Um, the Golden Steer, if we're talking about
Okay.
steak, I love it. I love going to the Golden Steer.
Okay.
Um, and yes, those two, and you got your ones on the strip you like. Beauty and Essex, I like STK. I host a lot of people at STK, and I go out Tao. I still eat at Tao sometimes, but off the strip, I just ate at Harlow the other day.
Okay, yeah, Harlow's
Steak,
great.
steak joint there. What else? There's, I mean, honestly, there's so many just off the strip that's the fun part about Vegas that I love the most. It's just finding those hole in the walls. They got more all you can eat sushi. Sushi. I'm not some of these
Yeah.
spots. I'm not gonna tell nobody because I don't want them crowded. I don't want nobody to know that I go there. But I got some all you can eat sushi joints I love. So when I got a big group of people in town and I'm the one paying, like we going to get that all you can eat sushi or all you can eat seafood or something else. But yeah, I love this place.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there too. I like conveyor belt sushi. That's
Yep.
one of my go-tos. It's quick and easy. So for Charger fans coming into town to watch the Chargers beat the crap out of the Raiders, what's one thing they have to do while they're in Vegas?
Um, I think while you're here, you got to spend maybe a half a day or something on the strip. You got to do that, right? It's
Yeah,
still an attraction. But I would start, check out Henderson and Southern Highlands and
yeah.
wherever. There's so many cool. Go check out like Red Rock, right? Casino. Or go check out, go to check out High Point. I mean, just go to the places a little bit off the strip. Because there's a lot there. My
Yeah.
favorite one too is Durango. I
Okay,
love.
yeah, yeah,
Go check out Durango. Go check out some of these hotels that's off the strip. The ones on the strip, go see them. But definitely check out some of the hotels and casinos off the strip.
yeah. No, I think there's a lot more to do outside the Strip, and you'll save a couple bucks as well, and the food's just as great, even better, um,
Absolutely.
with things off the Strip. Alright, so one last thing, we'll be seeing you at Thunder Alley this year?
Yes, I can't wait. I can't wait. For me, because I travel a lot and just constantly working and stuff like that. And when you get around there and the people, man, like it just when you see the people and you go there and it just makes you feel at home. And some of the people, not only fans yours, you also been friends with for a long period of time. You get a chance to see them. So I'll definitely be at a couple of Thunder Alleys this year.
Awesome. Well, I hope to see you there. I appreciate you coming on the show. This means the world to me. You spent 40 minutes talking to me about Chargers football. Really appreciate it. And if you'd like to come on any other time, happy to have you back. So this is awesome, Shawne. I
Let,
appreciate it.
let's definitely do it again. Absolutely,
Awesome. Thank you.
you got it.
Well, Bull fam, I hope you enjoyed the interview with Chargers legend Shawne Merriman. Had a great time talking to him, hearing his perspective about those dominant Chargers teams, and hearing that the framework is in place for this upcoming team in 2026. So if you haven't already, be sure to like, subscribe to Like Judge Podcast on YouTube. You can also listen on Spotify and Apple Podcast. Also follow me on socials. I'm at Electric Edge Pod on X, TikTok, Instagram, and also Facebook. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below about Shawne's comments, especially about this upcoming season. As always, love to read all Charger fans' comments. And as I mentioned, there's more guests to come, so make sure you're subscribed, you tune in, because we have a couple weeks to fill until training camp. So I'm going to try to bring you as much Chargers content as I possibly can. So with that being said, thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of the Electric Edge Podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Bloom. And as always, Charger fans, go Chargers and bolt up.